13th, 1989. And my name is Joe Todd, and this is an interview with Mr. Melvin Vaughn. We're in Wilmington, North Carolina, and you live in Norfolk, Virginia.
Norfolk, Virginia, right.
Okay. Sir, when's your birthday?
Birthday?
Yeah.
October 23rd, 1920.
1920.
Right.
And where were you born?
Born in Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio. And you go through school there?
Yes.
Columbus?
I went through junior high.
Mm-hmm. And you finished high school?
No.
Mm-hmm.
No, I wound up in Maryland, and I went 1 year down there, and after I got there, I wasn't teaching them anything, and they wasn't teaching me anything, so I quit.
And when did you join the Navy?
1940.
What?
July 1940.
Why the Navy over the Army or the Marines?
Well, I always figured I'd have a clean bed and something to eat. And when the skipper run, I'd run with him.
And where did you join the Navy?
Columbus.
Columbus?
Yeah.
And when did you go for boot camp?
Great Lakes.
Great Lakes. Tell me about boot camp. What happened?
Well, there's not a whole lot to tell. You go through boot camp, go through about 6 weeks of quarantine, and then you do a lot of footwork. And like I said, when we graduated, the name was Stacy, I believe, and he told us that it's not what you do in this outfit, it's what you get caught at. So I was fortunate.
You never got caught?
I never got caught. Well, one time I went over the hill for about 48 hours. I come within about 6 feet of missing the ship. And if I couldn't have jumped 6 feet, I'd never made it.
Where was this?
San Diego.
San Diego. After boot camp, what'd you do?
After boot camp, I think they gave us 10 days leave, and I didn't get about 3, and they called us back. And I went to the West Coast, Port of Oklahoma.
Why did they call you back?
I don't know, orders. They just cut our leave short, and they sent us to the Oklahoma then, which was in Long Beach.
Did you request the Oklahoma?
I requested West Coast and the battleship. Never expected to get it, but I did.
How'd you travel from Ohio to West
Train.
Coast? Train. Was it troop train or civilian train?
Civilian train.
Civilian train. Okay. When you first saw the Oklahoma, what'd you think?
I don't know that I was doing a whole lot of thinking at all. I mean, it just looked mighty big. Of course, years ago I went aboard to Pennsylvania, and I think it was off Alexandra, somewhere up in there. Where the devil was it? I was just a kid, 17 years old, something like that. But that was the first time I saw a battle wagon.
When you go aboard a battleship, how do you report aboard? What do you do?
Well, you go aboard and ask permission to come aboard and salute the colors and the quarterdeck. And they either let you on or they tell you to get off.
Now, what's a quarterdeck?
Quarterdeck is like your front door. When you go up, you knock on the front door, and somebody opens the door, and they either let you in or they don't. And of course, it's not a door necessarily, it's just a accommodation ladder that you go up. In this case, it was from a motor launch up to the quarterdeck, and you walk aboard and salute like I said, salute colors, and then the officer of the deck, and then they come aboard and if you're just going aboard, just reporting aboard, then you have to give him your orders, and then he'll tell you where you can go, and you carry on from there.
How far from the dock was the Oklahoma? How far did you have to go in the motor launch to the Oklahoma?
Gosh, I don't know. It was a pretty good distance. It was 200 or 300 yards, I guess.
So
Maybe more than that, because it was out Battleship Row between Long Beach and San Pedro, out there along the water break.
So where'd they send you when you reported aboard?
Well, they did us up there, and a whole bunch of us, and I went aboard with my sea bag and hammock. It was all lashed together, and you carry it from up the gangway until you're to the ship, and over there next to the turret where I was standing, and they give you a chance to pick the division you would like to go in, and they read off a bunch of divisions. Of course, in my case, I didn't know one division from the other, and I didn't particularly care about going in the. I didn't want to. My uncle was down in the black gang, and he recommended I do that. Now, I didn't particularly care about being below decks. I liked outside. So this is what I struck for, and they read off a bunch of numbers, and finally they got down into the letters. I didn't know one letter from. I didn't know what division was what. They didn't explain that. So they finally come to F division, and I said, I raised my hand, I'll take that. I didn't know what I was doing. And of course I come to find out later that I wasn't qualified for that type of work. I didn't have a background for it.
What is that division?
Fire control, and it requires a lot of mathematical background, which I didn't have.
So you were assigned to what division?
F division.
So you were in F division?
Oh yes. Of course all I did was mess cook and compartment cleaner.
Now you said that you brought your hammock aboard.
Mm-hmm.
Now the Oklahoma had bunks, didn't it?
The Oklahoma had bunks, yes, but they didn't have enough. They were being apparently complimented with more people than they had, so we were sleeping up in a casemate on hammocks, and they strung hammocks up in the casemate. And I think I slept up there for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months maybe before a bunk became available.
Now which casemate were you?
6.
6. And when you were assigned to a bunk, where was that located?
It was down on the main deck, just inside off the quarter deck in the F division compartment. And it was the lower deck, or the lower bunk, of course. You always start at the bottom and work up.
So you were mess cook?
I was mess cook, yes.
How long does that last?
I think 6 weeks or something like that.
Now describe what a mess cook does.
Well, at that time, it's a lot different than nowadays. They had tureens in a bracket. I think there was 4 or 5 tureens about 6, 8 inches in diameter, and you filled whatever was in there. In fact, it was loaded in the galley, and you go down and you pick up whatever food is there. And they have, if they have meat, they have trays, platters to bring the meat up in or something like that. And we went from we brought it up, and the men came in and sit down at the tables, and you had usually 20, 21 men to serve. And so you bring it up, and they set it on the table, and they take what you want, just like home cooking. Well, home service, I guess you'd call it.
And how far was the galley from your quarters?
From the casemate, it was down on the third deck.
So how do you carry that tureen, the galley?
No, it's second deck. Second deck, I'm sorry. It was down on the second deck. And you had, how you carry it? In your hands.
Up and in the ladders and all that?
Right. So
How do you
I had two ladders to come up. I had to go from second deck to the main deck and up on the one level, or forecastle deck, because it extended out to the forecastle.
Now how big is this thing that you're carrying? All this
Well, you got a tray that's what, 15, 20 inches long, and maybe 12 inches, something like that.
Is there a handle on top or what?
No.
A tray now.
It's a tray. It's a tray type thing. And then the tureen has a handle, has a bracket that it all sets in, and they're clamped in place, and they set in each other. And you have four of those with whatever, there's 3 or 4, whatever they have. You go down there and they hand you this, and you take it up, and you hand it up across the table, start in one end of the table, and they serve themselves just like you would at home. You pass the pot, and you take out what you want.
How much does this weigh?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Not a whole lot. 5 pounds maybe.
Have you trouble carrying this thing?
No.
Ever drop it?
No?
Nope.
No. Not that I can remember.
Now, if you're out to sea and maneuvers, you hit a rough sea, you have any trouble carrying this tray?
Well, you have some, but on a battle wagon it doesn't move a whole lot. It has to get pretty rough for that. So it didn't. I don't remember it having any difficulty handling it. Of course, I was young and didn't know any better.
Did you think we'd go to war at this time?
To tell you the fact, we hadn't thought a whole lot about it. Not really.
Well, you know, the war in Europe and the Japanese and China and all that.
No, there was no. At least I didn't have any thoughts about it. There was some talk, but I mean, it was all years away, maybe.
Were you on board when the Oklahoma Enterprise almost collided the aircraft carrier?
Yes.
Where were you when that happened?
I was standing in phone watch on the fantail.
What happened?
Well, I don't really know. I was standing back there, and it was at night, and there was just you just see a sort of a shadow. And I looked up and I saw this thing, and I reported that there looked like an aircraft carrier coming across our stern. And next thing I knew, why, it was getting too close for comfort, so I decided to run. And I run forward past turret 4, and I come to the end of my phone line. And I don't remember whether it jerked the phone off my head or whether I broke the line. I don't know which. But the next thing I knew, they had gone by, and all it did, as far as I know, the next morning, I heard sort of a scraping noise, and it had bent the flagstaff on the stern. So that was pretty close.
How could two ships come that close without? Why did they come that close?
Well, they was in, as near as I can tell. Of course, I don't know. I think it came as a surprise to everybody. I think they just got confused, and radar was something in its infancy at that time. In fact, I don't even know whether we had one on there. I don't think there was one on the Oklahoma at all.
So did the guy on the bridge, did he swing the Oklahoma away from it? Or
They was probably the operation was probably all in. It was probably already in progress at the time I saw it, and it may have been that they had swung maybe to come across. I think it come across from starboard to port, and I believe that's what it was, starboard to port, and they could have swung to starboard to swing the rear end away from the. So this might have been what the only thing that saved it, really.
If they would have collided, what would have happened?
I have no idea, because of the armor on the side of the ship at that point. I don't know whether it would be just a matter of a pushing action, or whether there would have been, I'm sure there would be some kind of damage. But how extensive it would be, I have no idea.
How much of that flight deck came over the Oklahoma? Any idea? How far it extended over the Oklahoma decks?
Well, it was the bow. It would have had to have been pretty close. I'd say, I don't know how much of an extension that would be.
But the flight deck actually came over the Oklahoma.
Yeah, the flagstaff, it had to come over the flagstaff, in order to hit it. And the way it curves, be like this. This is your bow coming in here. It would have had to come in maybe something like that, because of where the bow was come up to the flight deck, or I should say the hangar deck. Come up like that, and it would hit. I really have no idea how much hung over. It couldn't have hung over too far. It had probably got the crane also.
What about when it sunk the freight train? Were you on board then?
No, that was in. From what I understand, that happened in Puget Sound, I believe, somewhere like that. Yeah. That was before I went aboard.
I understand the Oklahoma and the Arizona collided. Were you on
Not
board?
while I was aboard, no.
Okay. Any other incidents happened while you were on board before Pearl Harbor?
No, there was just a trip from Pearl Harbor to the States. I think that was. We made a trip back to Long Beach, and we had a storm out there. Then I think we lost a man over the side at that time, and I think that was when we went in. We got back, and everybody expecting to go ashore, and we went in the breakwater and went on out the other end and turned right around and went back to Pearl. That was, I think that was October or November. Yeah, October and November of 41.
The Oklahoma broke the shaft. One of the propeller shafts. Were you on board?
Not while I was
okay.
aboard.
Okay. So, the Oklahoma had been on maneuvers when it came in December 6th.
I don't believe it did. We went into dry dock one time before that, but I think that was just a routine dry dock.
What maneuvers had the Oklahoma come off of when it went into Pearl on December 6th? Was it just routine maneuvers?
As far as I know, yes.
And what was your average day on the Oklahoma?
Average day?
What time do you get up in
got up, I think it was 5:30. Seems to me like it was 5:30 in the morning. And you do some of your chores, like mine was compartment cleaning. I was only a seaman deuce at the time. And I had compartment cleaning, and I did what I had to do prior to the regular routine, like dump spit tunes and stuff of that kind of thing, and spit kit out. They had all the conveniences then. Nowadays you got to find a place to spit.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that you get up and do your. I guess the deck force had more of an activity. Of course, if I was mess cooking, I had to go up there and get. That was the first thing I had to do, get up and get some coffee up there to the casemates, so so my bosses could have a cup of coffee before breakfast.
Now, do you take the coffee and the cups up there to the casemate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The cups, what are they made of?
Porcelain.
They're porcelain cups?
Yeah.
Okay. And how much coffee did you take up at one time? How big was the coffee pot?
Oh, I don't know, there might have been, gosh, I guess it was on the neighborhood of a gallon or better, because it was a pot about that big, about that high. So I'd say it's somewhere in the neighborhood of a gallon or better.
How are those bunks secured to the bulkhead?
They're on stanchions, and they have a hook that the bunk sets in, and it's a clamp that swings over the top of it. And then they've got chain hooks that come down from the overhead and hooks up to the top bunk, and the next chain goes down from I'm talking about the outside edge, and usually there's anywhere from 3 to 4 or 5 bunks, depending on the height of the overhead.
Now, is that part of your job, is compartment cleaning, to put the bunks up?
Oh, yes.
And how many bunks in your compartment?
Gosh, I don't know, maybe 50, 60 bunks, I suppose, in this one compartment.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe more than that.
Now, when you clean the compartment, does that include the floor?
Oh yes. Well, we had linoleum floors, decks, or covering on the steel deck, red linoleum.
So, what'd you do December 6th?
December the 6th. That was on a Saturday. Well, we probably had routine inspection, and I guess, well, there was some people that had a little more to do because they was getting ready for this annual military inspection of double bottoms and blisters and stuff of that kind. And they had them all open, and they had painted them and made them look real pretty for this inspection. And I think that's the reason we had a problem when we took on those torpedoes. Otherwise, I think we'd still been floating.
So did you go on Liberty?
No, I don't think so. I don't remember. No, I didn't go ashore on Saturday. I was planning on going on Sunday.
Okay, so Sunday morning.
Yeah.
What happened from the time you got up? What time did you get up on Sunday morning?
Well, I think we got up about 6 on Sunday morning, something like that. And a friend of mine was mess cooking at the time, and we were going to hit the beach. And I forgot I had a appendicitis operation. I lied. I forgot. In October, September, October, I had appendicitis operation in San Francisco. Mare Island.
Now
I
when
forgot about that.
did you have an appendicitis attack?
Yes.
When did it hit? Where were you?
Well, we was in Bethlehem. Was it Bethlehem Steel? Or probably in Battleship Row outside of San Francisco.
So you were taking the shore for the operation.
Right. I was taking the shore, and I was there and had my operation and got back aboard before the ship left for Pearl Harbor.
And when did you go back aboard? Any idea?
It had to be the latter part of October, I would think.
Now, did you go back to your normal duties?
Right.
Okay.
And what reminded me was that I wasn't supposed to do any heavy work, and I'd forgotten about that.
So what?
But then sometime between that, this other trip came in before Pearl Harbor, where we made that U-turn and went back to Pearl. But anyway, I had this operation, and I went back to duty, and then we're back to December the 7th again. Morning. We got up that morning, and I was helping this mess cook. And before that, I wasn't supposed to go swimming or anything of that kind. So I figured I'd been out long enough that I could go swimming. So we had decided to go out to the beach and make a day of it. So I was helping him with this mess cook, and we had breakfast, and I went out with a tureen of garbage out to the slop chute on the outside the ship, and I dumped the garbage in the garbage in the slop chute, or in the garbage in the honey. What do they call it? Honey. Anyway, there's a garbage can that's hung on the side, and then they come up and they picked that stuff up, and it was a big one, big hopper. And you dumped it in there, and then you went over and they had a slop chute that had water running in it all the time. You went in there and rinsed it out, and dumped it down the chute. And then you took the tureen back in and they washed it.
Where's that garbage chute go?
Over the side.
Over the side. Okay.
You just rinsed you didn't dump all the garbage down there. You dumped it in the hopper, and then you rinsed it out and took it back in to have it washed.
Now, what uniform do you have on?
I had white skivvy shirt and white shorts, and we went. I turned around and started back into the ship, and I heard this plane. And I looked up and I saw something drop and splash alongside the Ogallala, just across the harbor from us. It was tied up alongside the pier. And I looked up to see what was going on. People up there playing games again, and I looked up there and I saw this red ball on the side of the plane. Now, you slant-eyed son of a... And I don't remember whether I dropped the tureen down a slop chute or whether I took it back in or what I did with it, but I went back through the compartment, and I told this mess cooks in there, I said, "Jats have attacked, and this ain't no." And I went on down below, and went down through our compartment, and dropped down right next to my bunker, right past my locker. Didn't think about billfold or anything else, my watch or whatever was in my locker, and because I assumed we was going to battle stations. So I went down to the second deck because my battle station was plopped.
Now, what were your duties at your battle station?
I was a phone talker battle station. What was it? I was on the A phones. I can't remember the exact terminology for that, but I started down there, and that was down below. That was on the first platform, and so I had to go down to the third deck, cross the conveyor belt for where they hauled ammunition and stuff of that kind out of the magazine, and I started to go across I went down to the third deck, and just as I got to the third deck, why, there was an explosion, and the ship rocked, and we was down there on the third decks where the reefers are, and these big reefer door alongside of me sagged open and evidently ruptured some ammonia lines. That's what they was made the refrigerators cold. And when the door sagged open, the ammonia escaped out there, and I didn't like the smell of the ammonia, so I moved forward. I moved forward, and I was going to go through the next doorway and across the conveyor belt, which I usually did. Well, I just jumped across the conveyor belt and down through the trunk into plot. I got through there, and the ship had took a list, and I'd say 45 degrees, something like that. And there was oil on the deck, made it slippery, or something was making it slip. And I started to go across there, and for some reason or other I didn't. I went down to the end of the conveyor belt and started back. I had to go across the ship, come back and to the center of the ship to hit the trunk line going down to plot. And about that time, lights go out. And if I remember right, I didn't see any of the emergency lighting come on. And I went across to the high side of the ship, and I run into a man standing there, and I said, "Well, what's the holdup?" And he says, "Well, there's a lion here. They're trying to get through this doorway, going back through the same doorway on the opposite side of the ship that I came through on the port side." And I went up there, and first thing you know, he had moved, and some guy comes up there and he starts charging through there, trying to get past me. And I said, "Wait a minute, ease off. There's a line up here." And so I moved forward, just tried to keep my arm against this guy so I'd know when he moved, because it was dark. And I went through it, finally got through it, and there was supposed to have been a ladder going up to the second deck. And I don't know where it went. I didn't find it. But my feet slipped about the time I got away from the door, because the ship was over, I don't know, 45, 65 degrees, something like that. Or over like that, and I slid down against the inner bulkhead. And I squatted down to keep from falling down. And I hit the bulkhead with my knees, and well, now, there ought to be a hatchway around here somewhere. And I looked around, and I could see up, and you could see there was more daylight up there. So I reached around like this, and I finally found a rung of a vertical ladder, which they had on all the for emergency exits in such a case, I suppose. And I went up this vertical ladder to the second deck, and there was a bunch of people trying to get out these. There were larger ports on the second deck than there were on some of the others, and but some were trying to get out the portholes, which the ship was almost over on its side then. And so I just kept moving aft till I found they were standing in line at this with one porthole, and I can't see any point in that when there's other portholes that's possible. So I went on back. There's one man standing over there by this one porthole. He said, "Come on, I'll give you a hand. As you go ahead, if you get out, I'll get out." So I had to crawl up on the bunks. This is a bunk and sleeping quarters, and I worked my way up to the top. And by that time, the porthole was directly over my head. And I stuck my head up out of the porthole to see where he'd gone. And he was long gone. I don't know where he went, but he went through it. And I started to pull myself up, and I got up, got my hips hung up in the port, and I thought, this is a hell of a way to do it. And I said, well, I'm not going to fall back through this thing. So I just leaned forward. All of a sudden I got tired, and I laid down on the side of the ship, just leaned forward, laid down, pulled my rear end right out of the port. And I said, well, that's a help. So I got up, stood up on the side of the ship, and the bottom of the ship was higher than the top side was. So there was no point in hitting that water. So I went ahead and started up over the bottom of the ship. Ford Island was closer. So that's what I thought I'd do. And then the Maryland was just inside too, so I thought, well, there's a possibility. And about that time it started to roll again. And I looked around, the water was catching up faster than I thought it ought to, but I wanted it to. And I changed my mind about crawling over the top, and I hit the drink, and I swam out about 7,500 yards. Crawled up on some
Hello? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, give me about 10 or 15 minutes. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
always somebody.
Yeah.
So I went out and crawled up on this wreckage, and of course in boot camp they always told us to take your shoes off when you go swimming, because you can't swim with your shoes on. So I was sitting up on this wreckage and looking around to see what I was going to do, and my legs felt awful tired all of a sudden. So I reached down, I still got my shoes on. So I started to take my shoes off, and I looked over to see where I'd come from, and I said, I swum this far, I'll just leave them on, I might need them. So I left them on, and of course when I left the ship, I was swimming, and I was glad then that I learned to swim in the river instead of somebody's swimming pool, because the turbulence that we got right at that time was, well, I was swimming, it didn't seem like I was making much headway for the first few seconds, and but I finally made my way out, and this motor whaleboat came up there, and he says, I can't come in there. He says, can you get over here? I said, how do you think I got out here?
What kind of wreckage were you on?
Some kind of timbers. a wood of some kind. I don't know whether it was decking, whether it's but it was floating. That's all I know. I wasn't analyzing it. But he says, well, come on. So I shoved off and swam over to where he was, and those gunnels on the whaleboats are quite high off the water. Somehow or the other, I was expecting to get some help. But when I looked up there, I didn't see anybody. So somehow or the other, I got a hold of the gunnel on that whaleboat and pulled. Huh?
Well, what's the gun? What's that?
The gunnel is the side of the boat, the whaleboat. And I reached up, and it was, gosh, it must have been 2.5, 3 feet off the water. Wouldn't you say? And anyway, I got a hold of the gunnel on the whaleboat and pulled myself in, and he was over helping somebody else in. So, he took us over to Fort Island and tied up to the fuel line, and we went aboard. And then's when I was glad I left my shoes on, because all this coral that was on the bottom tore up the man's feet that was went ashore with me. And I went up on the beach and tried to get, some woman was standing there in their house, or in the doorway, with her hand stuck in her face, in her mouth, and I asked her if she had something I could put on this man's feet, because he'd cut him up pretty bad, and she couldn't answer me. She just pointed towards the house. So I went in the house and picked up a towel and went out there and wrapped his feet up with this towel, because he cut him up on that coral. So that was one time I was glad I left my shoes on. And I laid down out on the grass then, and the guy come up and asked me if I could drive a truck. I said, yeah, I suppose. And he said, oh, hell yes. He said, I know you. He says, come on. So I went over to this, looked like an old Chevrolet pickup truck that was loaded with bodies. I didn't know whether they was hurt, dead, or otherwise. He says, take them to the hospital. I said, where's the hospital? So he said, well, follow that ambulance going there. And I got in there, and another guy come over there, and he said, I'm going with you. And he jumped on the right-hand side, and we started out. And I had to go across the airfield. And we was following the ambulance and looked up here, and here come this Jap plane across, strafing the airfield. And he come right on down towards us. I crawled out on the running board, and this guy slid up underneath the wheel, trying to get some kind of protection. Somehow or the other, we didn't get hit, but you could see the dirt kicking up ahead of the plane coming into us. And somehow or the other, we lucked out, and we unloaded the bodies at the hospital. And I come out there, and the guy says, I don't know how much of a story you want to. I just I went out there, and this Marine come by, and he says take this box of ammunition up on the roof. So I don't know whether you know how big a 30 caliber ammunition wooden box is, and I don't know what it weighs. I can't tell you. But after I carried it up a vertical ladder of about, I'd say 20 feet up to the roof. After I got it up there, I was trying to figure out how I did it. I mean, you hold it on your shoulder and walk up a vertical ladder. So I got it up there, and I turned around. He says, "Here, take this." He says, "I'll be right back." He handed me a 30-06. So I took 30-06, and here comes another plane across the roof. and straight, and they had a 30 caliber ammunition, or 30 caliber machine gun on each end of the roof, and there was, I think there was, oh, it seems like there was 7 of us up there shooting at him with rifles and these machine guns. So we figured all the firepower we could give him, at least we felt like we was doing something. And we think we got one of them. But after that, I come down. I never did see that Marine. He never did come back up get it to retrieve his rifle. So I kept it through the night. And well, we went down. We got another attack out front. And we were all down out front on the steps, and there's one coming down across there, and we all trained out on him, and of course they were still shooting from the roof, and what people had ammunition fired back. I don't care if it was nothing but a pea shooter they were shooting at, because you could have hit him with a spud. You could have thrown a spud at him and hit him. It'd be no problem. And I had one of those, the old World War I type helmets on. I don't even remember where I got that. But I got it, and by the time I trained out on it, I stuck it back on the back of my head so I could see. And about that time, something knocked it back down, and I turned around to see what happened, and some Marine was just yanking a rifle out of a guy's hand behind me, and he had somehow discharged his rifle and the shell hit the top of my helmet and and he yanked that rifle out of the guy's hand and sent him to the showers. But after that, it was all hearsay about the parachuters coming in on the other side of the island, and they was going to have landing parties and all that kind of stuff. Of course, nothing of that ever.
Did you think the Japanese would invade?
No, I didn't. I didn't figure they would, because I didn't think they had I didn't think they had guts enough to face you. I figured they'd shoot you in the back, but they wouldn't face you.
The torpedo you saw that plane drop, is it for the Oklahoma or the Oklahoma?
No, it was towards the Oklahoma, and I don't think it was a torpedo. I think it was a bomb, because I saw it hit and exploded. The Oklahoma raised up just a little bit and then settled down. So I think it was just might call it a near miss. And
whenever you left the Oklahoma, was there oil on the water?
There may have been. I didn't see. I didn't pay that much attention.
And when you got off on Ford's Island, did you have oil on your uniform at that point?
Yeah, I was of a different color.
How'd you get that off?
I don't know. I think it just wore off over a period of time. Because I don't remember when I took a shower. The only thing I remember is going up, and the Red Cross finally gave me a cigarette, and I think I smoked 3 of them, one right behind the other. It tasted real good.
Whenever you could look out and see the Oklahoma upside down, what was your reaction?
I was mad. I mean, I got mad. I was mad when I dropped the terrain or whatever I did with it. I got mad. And I stayed mad well, I'm still not over it, really. And some of the stuff that's going on today just rubs me the wrong way, and I just don't. Well, I guess I showed that up at the meeting down there this morning. Because I just don't believe in giving up. They ought to run them slant-eyed bastards back where they belong.
Whenever anyone mentions the Oklahoma today, what do you think?
Well, it sort of saddens me point. But I'm just sorry they didn't do more. I'm sorry it didn't get a chance to fight back.
And then when they were towing it back, and it sunk in mid-Pacific, what'd you think then?
I thought that was a better way to go than the way they had planned for it. At least it had a decent burial, rather than be cut up and wind up somebody's razor.
Could you compare the Oklahoma to other ships you were on? Is that a fair question?
Compare in what way?
The crew. How would the crew compare to you?
Well, I went aboard a destroyer after that. And of course we had a mixed crew there off of some of the battle rockets. And there were several of them off the Oklahoma. And we, like I said, we all were mad to start with, and we stayed mad. And we was, whatever it took, we was willing to give.
Which destroyer did you go aboard?
I was on the hull,
The hull.
the 350.
What happened to it?
It went down off of Luzon in a Halsey's Typhoon.
How'd you get up to it?
I wasn't on it at the time. I was sent to welding school in summer of 44, and I was supposed to go back aboard it. And by the time I got through my welding school and it had gone down.
Any of the crew get off that ship that went down in that typhoon?
Yes, there was what? I can't remember how many of them were off. I've gone to some of the reunions on that, but I can't remember the number of swimmers that they call them.
Well, I think we have a good interview.
They were sort of mad about that.
Yeah. Well, anything else about the Oklahoma?
No, it was just preliminaries on a night watch that I just happened to think about that. We was on maneuvers, night maneuvers on long range target practice. And they was firing, I believe they were 14-inch guns on there, weren't they? Yeah. And I was standing lookout on the forward lookout. And we had been firing at these long range targets, which is just a barge with a great big target out there on it. And we'd been firing out the day before, and that night I think I was mid-watch, and somehow after I got on watch, this red glow came up out of the horizon, and it looked like one of these big targets that was on fire. And I reported to the OD at that time, and before I could scarcely get it out of my mouth, the thing started to take shape. And I called back down and I said, belay that last word, it's only the moon. So he called me down, this was before the war started. And he called me, there's a young ensign, he called me down on the bridge and he started chewing me out, one side down the other, about making a false report. I said, I did the best I could. There were 8 of us up there decided what was what, as we made the report. And I said I belayed it as soon as I could. And so about the time he was chewing me out, some voice in the, of course it was all dark in ship, a voice says, what's the matter, son? I turned around and there was Captain Foy. And he was a big man. He was well over 6 feet. Or at least he looked that big to me. And I told him what what happened. And he said, "That's all right." He said, "Son," he said, "go ahead." So I went out on the wing of the bridge and I hung around long enough. I wanted to see what was going on, and he chewed that ensign out. And he was a quiet man. I never did hear him raise his voice or anything like that. And but the thing I remember most is his parting words, is that an ensign was the lowest form of life in the Navy, and not to forget it.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
It's quite all right. I just hope it was worth your time. I think it was 14 months, something like that there. From October 40 to December 7th, roughly 14 months. So what little bit I did know of him, he was a quiet man, and when he said something, he meant what he said.
I heard he was a good officer, a good captain.
He was. And I can't remember the guy that took his paper. He was
Bodie.
Yeah, that's it.
Hotel Street, the anchor is, locker rooms.
When you're being recorded now.
New Senator. The new Senator room.
This is what they hotels you?
That's when I get the best stories.
Who else?
No, that new Senator, they had the nicest broads in there. I mean, they had some of them.
You got that on now, really?
They had some of them less than 200
Yeah,
pounds.
it's going. You're talking about those girls.
You know, remember that?
Listen,
They
they
had
talk,
less,
wait,
They had them less than 200 pounds.
do you remember a girl by the name of Gigi in the senator rooms? Everybody in the 4th Division used to, doors closed, cornhole. She always gonna say 3 ways she was. And everybody, oh, it's the best of your cock. You stick a cock up somebody's ass, I said.
Don't say everybody in the 4th Division.
Well, that's what I used to hear.
Probably end up
for yourself,
Probably end up nobody in the 4th Division.
Popeye could do it.
Well, I don't know, but I went up there, and I saw Gigi, right? Son of a bitch, she says, you're from the Oklahoma. I said, yeah. And she said, oh, there we go again. No way, I said, you don't do that with me. Well, you know, I don't remember who house it was there. This was after the war now. After I was off the Okie, I'm in this whole house and I says, that freaking girl, her name is Gigi. And I asked the man who wrote it.
You didn't ask me. I
No,
wasn't
you're not. What's her name? Give a different name, right? And she come over and asked, what's your name? She gave the same name, right? I said, no way, yes, that's Gigi, right? So, sitting there, and she's going into a room with a guy. As the guy goes in first, she goes in a few minutes after, you know, I guess she gotta get the prophylactics order. And she's opened the door, I says, hey, Gigi! She turned around, I says, I told you that's your goddamn name, you forgot the Oklahoma man, right? She slammed the door, right? It's bigger guys,
Cut you right off.
I'm a bastard, I look to trap everybody with
She
the
was-
line.
She thought that you were looking for a piece
I
of
don't
lunch
have
for nothing, you know.
Launch out there with that one.
I hope
right.
that's not
You
on taking them, all that down for posterity.
Listen,
He didn't want
I tell
to
you,
pay his $3. That was his trouble.
We'll clean up
I
his
think
act,
she
Joe,
give
and then
me
we
on
can
a
start.
house.
Yeah.
Never happened, no.
You wasn't that
I
good.
heard one girl give a guy a good answer for him. He says, how many ways, you know? She said, 2 ways. He says, can't cornhole you? She said, I'll tell you what I'll do. She says, I'm going to take a shit. I'll bring it out here and go stick your cock in it. And I died laughing. I said, son of a bitch.
Oh, Mike.
Oh, give him another wine.
The interview was over.
Yeah.
Okay, turn the camera on.
Okay.
Turn the camera on. Go ahead.
Did you get
I
that?
promise not to tell
Tell
anymore.
about
No more,
Popeye.
no more dirty stories.
No, wait, one more.
Let's just have a
Popeye, right?
Okay.
Popeye. Oh.
This guy had a dong like that. I
Like you
swear to
are.
God. And he was going with this broad or something. Where the hell was
San
he going with
Francisco.
that one? San Francisco?
Yeah, and
He had to put pillar on both sides to break her
mouthwash.
in and come back telling us about that.
He had to go get the mouthwash for her after he she gave him a blowjob, and she was spitting out everything, and Popeye had to go down and get some mouthwash. She came back and brought it up to her. And she was goggling her throat for a few hours, and she got drunk and she forgot all about it, I guess.
He used to come from the shower, you know, and that fucking darn hanging. And I say to him, when you step over the goddamn Coleman, what do? You throw 1 foot over first, 1 leg over, then you reach up and throw the cock over, right? And then the other leg. Unbelievable.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Okay, can we
Okay,
start?
that's it. That's the best story.
Clean up the act.
It's all about Pearl Harbor now instead of before Pearl
Oh, yeah.
Harbor.
They were lucky to survive that. Never mind the attack. They almost didn't survive.
That's,
Can I turn it on now?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. This is May 13th, 1989, and my name is Joe Todd, and this is an interview with, give all your names. We can start with you.
Wesley Potts.
Stephen Young.
Dick Whitman.
Russell Davenport.
Mike Savarese.
Okay. I didn't know where to start. Now, you all were members of
Turret 4.
Turret 4. Okay, which turret is Turret 4?
The last turret on the stern, the back of the ship, the head of the ship.
Okay. What were each of your duties as a member of the turret? Start with you, Mr. Potts. What was your job?
I was a gun captain of number 3 gun and number 4 turret.
What was your rank?
I was a coxswain.
Mr. Young?
I was a seaman first class.
And what were your duties at the turret?
I was a powder hoistman in the upper powder hoistman.
My name is Dick Whitman. I was a gunner's mate 2nd class and was a trainer in Turret 4 for Battle Station.
Mr. Davenport?
I was a ammunition powder thrower, I guess it was. Throw it out of one place and throw it over the other. That's about,
Okay, and what was your rank?
I've seen them first.
And you?
My name is Mike Savarese. I was a coolie. Seaman first like this guy.
And what were your duties at the turret?
I was a primer. Primed the firing lock in order to set off the charge. What else can I tell you?
What size guns were in that turret?
14-inch guns.
14-inch, 45 caliber.
That's the gunners made, I'll tell you.
Now, what do you mean 45 caliber?
Well, a caliber is 14 inches, and it'd be 45 times 14 would be the length of the gun.
Oh, okay.
That's how they figure the length of the barrels.
I guess probably the Oklahoma was on maneuvers up through December 6th. When it came in.
We came off 2 weeks at sea.
Okay, what maneuvers were you on? What were you doing?
Actually, we were just out there in formations, going through formations at night. In the dark, we were getting dark and ship practice at night, running without lights. And actually, the propaganda from Honolulu was every time the Japs looked like they were doing something, they'd send the fleet to sea, and nobody knew where the fleet was. But we were operating, I think, southwest of Honolulu that 2 weeks we were out.
Okay.
We was up operating
Wait,
through the night.
Before I go any further, about 8 months before the attack, they had to stand in condition tree watches every time we were out to sea. Remember that?
Right.
Yeah.
We were all standing condition tree watches. And no matter what we were doing out there, that's what we were doing. And when we come in port, they secured everything. Standing in condition tree watches, you remember none of the anti-aircraft guns had firing locks in them.
That was, condition 3 was where you stood watch for 4 hours and you were off.
He's
8
got
hours.
his shuttle. He got his shuttle right quick. We verify stuff here so we know, so we don't screw each other up, right?
And,
Well, how many guys remember hitting
That was
Pennsylvania?
4 on and 8 off, and actually the
We ran
men
to
on the turret
Pennsylvania.
4 were really going up to the boat deck
No.
and on watch for the anti-aircraft guns. We'd been
At
trained for
night.
anti-aircraft.
And the Alexa almost knocked our flagstaff off.
Yeah, we didn't get no damage.
No, we had to go in the bow, dry dock and have the bow repaired, that's all. Not hole in the bow.
That's when we hit
Stand by.
Arizona, I mean, not.
Stand by
the
the
carrier.
collision.
We hit,
Carrier was before.
Pennsylvania.
Oh,
We ran to
it was
Pennsylvania.
Arizona.
No, the Arizona, they had the flag, they had the flag on Pennsylvania. They transferred it to the Arizona.
That's when
And,
we hit.
the
hit our honey
Pennsylvania went in dry dock and being repaired, it was in dry dock. That's the way I remember. Maybe I'm wrong.
I remember the dry down.
But the Pennsylvania was in dry dock being
Forgot all
repaired
about that thing.
because we rammed it. Knocked a little hole in it.
Well, we just kind
They
of
transferred the
hit it a
flag
little bit sideways.
to the Arizona, and that's where that Admiral Kidd, or what was his name, got killed. Kidd, that's where he, they transferred his whole staff over on Arizona, yeah. I remember.
I forgot all about it. I remember him passing away. Now you mentioned it. Stand by for collision.
That was the
That
Enterprise.
was the Enterprise hitting us.
Knocked their flagstaff off.
I don't remember which one,
Yeah,
but then I remember
flagstaff,
being in
like
dry
that,
dock.
knocked their flagstaff off.
Friggin'.
Now, what's next?
I know the night
So
that,
I wanted to just get to the
the
conditions.
night that Enterprise almost hit us, I was playing poker down below, and they said, stand by for collision forward.
Collision starboard bow.
Instead collision midships, they said. Then they said collision
Oh.
aft.
All clear.
And then all clear. And then when we, in the
Still,
morning when
the
it was
bow knocked the
daylight,
flagstaff
flagstaff
off.
was bent down. The carriers got a bit like that, that went by and just bent our color staff down to the stern.
It was doing about 25 knots.
Just a top speed.
Is that the
Stand by
exit?
for collision.
Yeah.
Stand by for collision.
Yeah, at the same time, I was collision, I was a midship and sleeping up there, but it was so hot. They passed the word collision forward, everybody to your collision station. I was a midship and I jumped up and I run through this hatch and I was going back aft, somebody else was coming forward. I hit him right in the head with my head. A big old ball of flame jumped out about 2 foot in diameter right in front of my head. I staggered around
One of
a
you
little
was
bit.
going the wrong way in a one-way street there.
I got back aft, just I got aft, it says collision aft. And some old kid looked up through the hatch and the Enterprise was right over us. The damn flight deck was hanging about 10 or 12 feet over our stern, and they just took our jackstaff and bent it double, or over.
Yeah.
Is that the only damage?
That's the only damage besides my forehead there where I hit that old boy.
Well, when we hit Pennsylvania, there was a little damage.
Knocked the stem 6 inches over. The stem
the
was
bow.
hit, yeah.
Not the flagstaff, no. Tore the hole in Pennsylvania, and tore a little hole in Oklahoma bow.
Yeah, that was a fight.
That was all the time dark ship we were running
Got
without
dried out.
lights and everything.
Pennsylvania was
Dried out?
Little
being
screw-ups
repaired when
sometimes on the maneuvers,
the
you know.
Japs attacked.
If that Enterprise would have hit us broadside though, that'd have been the biggest disaster.
We'd still been floating in that 2 miles of water down there.
Yeah, we would have, the whole bunch of us.
Yeah. I wouldn't be alone that time.
Would the Oklahoma have sunk with the
Oh, I
Enterprise?
believe so. The
Oh, I
Enterprise
imagine so.
was going
Going that speed.
25 knots. If it had hit us a midship like they pretty near did.
I don't know with that armor on it. I don't know what with
I
that.
don't
We had
know.
a 14-inch armor.
25 knots. Sounds to me
I
like
hope it was 14-inch armor.
what the Enterprise weigh, about 33,000 tons?
Yeah, something like
29,
that.
30,000.
They'd have just been there cut us in two, you know.
It was traveling.
I'm glad it didn't hit us.
I'm glad it didn't.
Yeah.
Were you on board when the Okie sunk the freight train?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was aboard up in Seattle, yeah.
What happened there?
Well, we were
Big
getting underway in the morning. We'd finished our Navy Yard repair, and they were going to see to test everything. We used to make a run up the Sound to test everything out. And I remember this pretty good because I was up on the bow, and it was real. Well, we left the dock and started out, and all of a sudden the fog just closed in on us. And there was a tug with a great big long tow, and had some barges with boxcars on. These boxcars were filled with lumber, and we run right between them. And we brought the tug in on one side of us and the tow on the other side, and some of the boxcars got knocked off in the water. And we found out later on that the tugs picked these boxcars and towed them over to the Navy Yard, and they picked them up to the Navy Yard crane and set them on the tracks in the Navy Yard. They were full of lumber. But we went on to sea that day and completed our shakedown, and then came back into the Navy Yard again. And we had a little hole punched up in the bow someplace, I forgot where.
2x4 did.
But it hit midship, that's right where I was, 6th Division there.
There was a hole punched in the skin there wasn't
Did you ever see one of these Wild West movies when the outlaws blast the bridge? That's just the way it looked. When I heard this banging on the side, I run over the rail. There's boxcars coming right at me. All right, it just looked like coming off the truss.
We went on that after
The
that.
headlines in the
That's it,
paper,
went to
and
Long
Seattle
Beach,
paper
that's
the next
what
day anyway,
it
it was
is.
battleship hits freight train. And it was
Actually,
kinda made
the
a
freight train
unique
hit us.
headline.
Yeah, the freight train. Oklahoma hit freight train and sunk for the freight train. A couple different headlines.
I remember when we went on the ship after that, we were just down from Bremen, in Long Beach, and somebody told me, hey, yeah, battleship.
That captain we had on the ship was one of the best captains we ever had, and he had all those mishaps. He had the freight train deal, he lost all his anchors.
That was Ford.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he had that,
Didn't he have tattoos
near
all
miss-
over him?
near missed at Pearl Harbor with that one battleship, and that, and
There was
he was changed his command right after
there was
that.
court-martialed him because he hit the Pennsylvania with the staff.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but when we were at Pearl Harbor, didn't he get sick and he was over in the hospital before he changed command?
That's before he got his sea legs.
Yeah, he came to see us after the ship got sunk over there at the receiving station, and it just felt like it was still like this ship.
Because I remember something about the guys collecting money and sending flowers over to him in the hospital.
He
What
was sick,
navy?
he was sick.
Huh?
What navy was you in?
You remember that
Like
thing
a
still
hooligan,
turned,
maybe.
that thing still turned on, and we're trying to be decent.
Oh, wait, there's something didn't he get on have the crew assemble on the quarterdeck? I don't know, I couldn't have dreamt this. And he let the crew know that the commissary officer, some commander, I don't know, they found out that he was fleecing the ship's funds, and he was getting all the records against him.
Oh, that was that lieutenant.
I don't remember.
He wasn't a captain, that was a lieutenant.
Yeah, I remember something like that.
Taking care of the Edom. He stole the money from the Edom.
CQ would know something about that.
The only thing I remember
He was a
about
lieutenant,
Foy, he
wasn't he?
didn't want anybody to get any
Yeah.
tattoos. He was against tattoos.
I didn't get
Yeah, he had tattoos on him.
How many tattoos you got?
Every Saturday inspection, he'd say,
I don't
please,
have
boys,
any. I
don't get
couldn't
these
afford them.
tattoos, and next week
I
there'll be
couldn't afford
another
them
100
tattoos.
tattoos.
I got this one for nothing. I didn't
Oh,
pay.
they give it to you. They're advertising.
Some woman in Hawaii put it
Oh.
on me.
Okay, what'd y'all do December 6th? Saturday.
What all do what?
December 6th. What were you doing?
That's cool.
That's when we come into port, didn't we?
Came in on Friday.
Friday.
Right after that.
Friday.
Friday.
The cruisers, carriers left, and we came in.
Saturday.
We were getting ready for Admiral inspection on Monday.
Material inspection Monday.
So, actually on Saturday, I worked in the turret all day, cleaning up most of the boys that didn't go ashore working in the turret, because we had to get the turret ready for Monday for Admiral's inspection. And also our double bottoms were opened up, we had the manhole covers off.
Every hatch on the ship.
The
And,
blisters. Go with the blisters up too.
So, there was a Liberty parties on Saturday. People that raided Liberty went ashore. They had to be back at 11 o'clock at night. And the chiefs could stay over all night, providing they had someplace to stay. And the officers could stay over, but everybody else had to be back aboard the ship at 11 o'clock.
wasn't enough
So,
facilities there to keep
and
us.
you hear stories about they were all drunk and everything. That was not so. The guys were pretty well on the ball.
Still sleeping.
Sunday morning.
Oh, everybody was.
But lots of them still sleeping. I tell you, they allow you to sleep in the half-hour extra on the Sunday.
I just got
On
that
Saturday, you got up
breakfast
at
stuff.
6 o'clock. Sunday, they allow you to sleep to 6:30, I think it was, 6:30. But you had to get your ass out of that bunk by 6:30.
It's chow.
Yeah, by the time you attack, everybody had eaten already.
Yeah.
Okay, what happened December 7th?
Ask one guy, I can't.
Well, I was a gunner's mate, and my clean station for that quarter, every 3 months we had a different clean station, was the pits, which was underneath the guns. And we'd cleaned up the whole turret the day before, except the last place to clean up was the pits and the recoil cylinders underneath the guns, which was kind of an oily, rusty place in the turret. And I told him that I said, I'll go up and elevate the guns up. And when you get done chow and get washed up, come on up, and we all work together on that deal. We get the turret cleaned up.
This is the best. Go ahead.
And so I was going to elevate these 3 big guns up, and I got up in the pointers station and started turning the motor on. We had a big electric hydraulic motor, and handed about the 3rd notch. That's when the ship shook and shimmied, and I wondered what did I do now? I mean, I thought a hydraulic block in the line or something. Yeah, and I could just picture myself here 2nd class. Now I'm going to the brig instead. So, everything seemed to be okay right after that shaking. So I got back up and figured I'll try her again. Then that's when we got hit with banged with another one, which I didn't know what was going on at the time, because in the turret it's all covered up with armor and everything. You're out in another world really. And then I realized, I thought, well, maybe the guns crept up accidentally. There was a plane had the wings across the barrels outside, and maybe I was tipping one of those babies off the cart. So I opened up the side porch and looked outside. Everything was clear, as I could see. At that time, we'd already been hit with another fish, and the siren went on right beside my ear. We had a big siren, and my hair just stood right up. And the control switch for the siren was up in the turret officer's booth. And we always guys used to sneak in the turret, hit the switch, and leave. We never could find the culprit that did this. So I figured maybe I'll be fast enough this time I can find out who it is. So I run up through the pits and up the ladder through the gun room into the turret officer's booth, and there was our division officer. He said, the Japs are bombing us. And here all the fellows was screaming into the turret at that time. And as they came in, he said, well, we can't shoot these big 14-inch guns in the harbor, so he said, we'll all go down to the shell deck where it's safer. We had another armored deck, about a 3-inch armored deck over the shell deck. So we all went down, from what I remember, into the shell deck and closed that hatch that went up to the pits. And by that time the lights had gone out, and we had battery miners, and they'd come on automatically. So now the whole shell deck was full of men, from what I remember. And the boatswain mate told the division officer, he said, damn it, this ship's going down, let's get the hell out of here. And he said, no, Red, he said, they can't sink a battleship with airplanes. And so Red was quiet for a little while, and he said, well, God darn it, they're sinking this son of a bitch, he told him. And so a few seconds later, he said to the division officer, he said, look, he said, you're in charge, and if something happened to you, then I'll be in charge. I'm the senior petty officer here. And he said, if you don't let us off here, he said, I'm going to knock you right on your ass, and I'm going to be in charge. And so he said, well, do you think it's going down, Red? And he said, you're damn right it's going down. He said, well, then let's go up and see what's going on. I mean, Red and him was going to go up. Well, I think some of the stories later that they kept the guys down with that 45, and some of the rest of us went up too. And we got in the turret officer's booth, and we looked out, which was the center of the ship, out of the hatch, and we could see water on the deck down below, which the deck was about that far from the hatch. And so he looked out. I said, look, you can see water. So the division officer said, well, I'll go out and see how she is. He went out of the hatch. He said, she's going down. Tell everybody to get out. So he said, make sure you warn everybody on the voice tubes or the telephones if you can. Tell them to leave their battle station in the lead. And so the next thing, they were all just like sardines going out of that hatch up there. And I think I was the third to last one out there. You went out right ahead of me.
I thought you was the last one. You said, didn't
No,
tell me there was one other guy behind you. I don't know who
Don
it was.
Olson came out after I
Who?
did. Don Olson, little gunner,
Oh,
Troy
did
County
he?
first class, yeah. And you got hit. You can tell a story about that.
Well, I started out the hatch, and there was a couple of big old 12-volt batteries, weighed about 40, 50 pounds apiece. I says to look back at Whitman. I said, "Do you think those are going to fall?" "No, no," he says, "let's get out of here." So I started down the hatch. Just as I got about halfway down, the batteries cut loose, hit me right in the chest. I fell right on the deck down below. It was slanting already, pretty steep, and I just slid into the water a little bit. But I realized I was going to need a life raft, so I got back up and tried to catch some big life rafts we had tied to the turret, but I didn't have a knife, and I couldn't untie the knots. It's kind of difficult to untie knots with machine guns and stuff going around, and so I'd give up, and just one of our seaplanes fell off the ship, and it was just floating about 30, 40 feet, 50 feet maybe from the ship. And I swam out to this seaplane and climbed up on it, and I'm up there trying to untie knots. That this canvas was over the pilot's seat. It's kind of difficult to untie those knots with machine gun bullets going around you and stuff. Finally give up, and I just ripped it off and got in the pilot's seat. And I pushed and pulled every gadget that was on it, I'd seen the pilot try to, start it, and I knew you put a shell in and pulled the trigger, and the prop started, but I pushed and pulled every gadget I could, and didn't work. I was kind of nervous too, and I got in the back, looked for a machine gun. No machine gun, they'd taken that out. So just at that time I looked up, there's a mainmast, and the ship was turning fast. The hawsers had broke, the one that was tied to the Arizona. They had broke and been chopped in two with axe. I know some of the guys cut the hawsers with an axe. And I knew it was time to get away from that plane, so I jumped off heads first, as far as I could, out of the oil, and I swam as far away from the ship as I could. I looked back, and the ship was going over. The mainmast grabbed the plane I just vacated. There were sailors all around the plane and under the foremast, maybe 50 to 100 sailors in there, and it just took them down. It went fast, and then I swam on out, and every time I'd gather up a bunch of wood, I gathered up what was that? The deck?
Grating.
The grating from the
Platform.
gang.
Yeah.
I gathered that up. Thought I was sitting pretty good. Here come old Red Jeter. He said, I'm about to drown. I said, "Here, take this." So I give him my grating, and I swam on out a little bit, and I just gathered me up a few more sticks of wood. My gosh, here come another old kid, old Copeland. Hell, I hadn't thought of him for 48 years. Copeland.
He's here.
Copeland?
Yeah. He's here.
That's right. I didn't
Big
realize
diamond ring.
till this minute.
That's,
Yeah, the
things
big
come
diamond
back to
rings
you
on there.
unbelievable.
Copeland.
Yeah, he's here.
It's
I'll
unbelievable.
introduce you as soon as your interview's over.
So
I
you
give
gave
him-
him the wood that you gathered up, right? Now
I
you
give
just find out
him
he's here.
the rest of it, and here was a little suitcase, you know, the one we'd take roller skates with. And I gathered that up under my arm. And I was making out all right. Pretty soon a launch come up, but there were several launches around, but every time I'd swim up to the launch, why some old boy a little bit farther off, he said, "Help, I'm drowning." So they'd leave me and they'd go over to him.
Don't pay to be a good swimmer, see?
I wasn't a good swimmer, but by the same token I was making out. Some of you other guys take over, Steve.
Anyway, maybe we should tell what went on top side, then we can tell about what went on down in the handling room with these fellas. Anyway, what happened on this life raft that Pot said he tried to get loose because he didn't have a knife. I was up there too, and I hollered for an axe. They thrown a big fire axe down from over on the other side of turret 3. It was a big curve on the deck, and it came right down to the bar bed. We got up and we chopped the lines all loose on the 2 life rafts, and there was 10 or 11 of us standing in each raft on the grading, waiting to float and take off. Water finally got up around our neck. The ship was like this then, and the rafts never floated because we'd painted around them so much they were just stuck fast to the turret. We should have given them a good jar, you know. So we took off, and the ship was rolling over, and I remember I got out in the water. Oil was about that deep, and I got out in the water, and there was some guy grabbing onto something. I grabbed it, whatever he had, and he says, "God damn it," he said, "get your own water breaker." But these were, we had water breakers aboard ship made out of wood, highly varnished and nice. They were all ready for admiral's inspection, empty, of course, so they watertight, so they floated good. And he said, just reach under the oil, any of those humps there, all these water breakers are out there, 60 or 70. So I got a hold of one, they had 2 handles on them, so you can grab and put your chin up on top. Of course, we're all covered with oil. You go to take the oil off, you just go like that, and you just get more oil in your eye. So finally he said, you take the ends, end of each one, and I'll take the end, then we can pull ourselves up. We had 2 together. And some old chief said goodbye to us. I'm so long I can't stand it. We pulled him up on top of these 2 water breakers. And then the motor launch came along. And in this motor launch was Lieutenant Ensign Rommel and this Red Templeton. They were in the motor launch. They started taking all the boys aboard, and I'm trying to get up at the bow where it's the highest. And every time the guys pull me up, they'd slip out because the oil was so slick. And finally, it picked up everybody there, and I'm the last one. And Red Templeton's in the motor launch, he says, come on, let's get the hell out of here. And I said, how about me? And I won't use the word, but he said, screw him, you know, let's go. And the division officer said, no, just a minute, let's pick up Whitman. So they took a life jacket and threw it to me, kind of, they could grab a hold of that. Told me to stick my foot through the armhole, and they could then grab hold of it, be at my knee. They'd heave me up. I couldn't quite understand him. I was trying to get my knee in the armhole and everything. They'd say, I said, you dumb son of a bitch, stick your foot in there. So I finally got my foot in the life jacket, and they give me a heave up in the motor launch, and the armhole broke, and I'm back in the water, and I'm back again. They throwed the life jacket. He said, what did he say? He said, let's go. To hell with him, let's go, he said.
Red Templeton.
Yeah, same guy said, let's go again. So that I turned the life jacket around quick and stuck my foot through the other armhole, and they throwed me aboard.
Yeah.
And we took off and ended up over on Magazine Island from the sub base. That's where they dumped us all off. And so that's the end of my story. So we get back to you now. You finally got in a motor launch and start picking up guys, right?
Yeah, finally somebody
The guy that didn't
got
have
around to
run
me.
it.
Well, it's some old boy named the guy in the motor launch was named, the engineer was named Bauer, and I don't know the name of the other guy, but they had picked this 50-foot motor launch up on Aiea Landing. They just commandeered it. They saw our need, and they come over to get us. So this guy didn't know nothing about running a motor launch, so he come over after us. Well, he picked me up and he said, do you know anything about running a motor launch? I said, yeah, that's
your job.
That's my job. So he said, here, you take this. So I did. Well, I spent the rest of the morning going around from ship to ship, picking up guys that were, you know, needing picking up. I remember picking up 4 or 5 guys there. Well, I picked up, oh, I don't know, 15 or 20 guys there at the Okie. One guy, they just poked him out of the porthole. He says, be careful. He says, I just had appendicitis operation. Well, you know, we didn't have too damn much time, so we reached down, 2 of us reached down and picked him up, and we drug him over the gunwale. But you can imagine what had happened if you got drug over the gunwale if you just had appendicitis operation, face first, you know. And as soon as we got him over, he passed out. We laid him out. Then we went around picking up more guys. We got a boatload, and we was heading back to we was heading over to the Argonne. We thought we'd get rid of these guys we'd picked up. So as we was going by the West Virginia, here's a lone raft out there. One old colored guy out there all by himself. We pulled up alongside and says, "Get in." No, he says, "I think I'll just stay here." Well, hell, there was fire coming down. The oil was all on fire, and it was coming down. It was going to get that life raft. This old guy that had the boat give it to me. We jumped over in the launch. We just pulled up alongside, and I stopped. We jumped over there, and together we just picked him up and heaved him over in the launch. Well, when he hit so hard he went unconscious, and there, I never got 2 guys unconscious. Well, I guess maybe we wasn't gentle enough. I don't know. Maybe we was in a hurry. But we went on over to the Argonne, and we was tied up alongside, and I picked this one guy up, the one that had the appendicitis operation. I felt kind of macho. I thought, I can take him up that gangway by myself. I got him in my arms. He was naked. And did you ever try to carry a 150-pound noodle, wet noodle? I got my arms together as close as I could, and he'd drop through. I couldn't figure no way of carrying him up. Finally, it took 4 of us to get him up to the Argonne to sick bay. I mean, 1 guy on either arm. I felt sorry for the guy.
Do you remember his name?
All I know, I met him later at I think it was one of the conventions. I forgot his name.
You mentioned earlier picking up somebody from Oklahoma by the name of Showalter.
Yeah, well, Showalter was that was later on in the day. So I went around later in the day, and I just by any chance, you know, I'd miss somebody. Well, my gosh, I pulled up alongside the Okie. That was hours later. I don't know. It was after 10 o'clock, I'm sure.
At the time, right.
I kind of lost track of just what all events happened. I still remember all the events, but I don't remember quite all the sequence. I pulled up alongside looking for survivor. There's old Showalter. He's hanging to a tuba 12. That's one of the stages that somehow happened to be there. He says, "God damn, Potts, am I glad to see you." He says, "My old pooper's a dragon. I was just about to turn loose."
I bet you he was.
I don't know how long he'd been there. It's several hours. I don't know how we'd missed him, I never did figure how come we had missed him.
See, this ain't funny to anybody else, but us to this because we know all the guys.
The oil, he hadn't got burned up in the oil either, so he was
Well,
lucky
the
that
the
way.
oil didn't go to the Oklahoma. It bypassed out maybe 100 yards or 100 feet the burning oil. The wind was blowing just enough to take it away from the hull of the Oklahoma. And then it kind of swung back and went by the West Virginia, went right down the side of the West Virginia, and it was swing, and the fire that come to the California later was some that I think had come on the inside, you know, on the inside of the
Must have been a tide at
those
that time.
pilings, you know,
The
where
tide must have been moving.
the big, you know,
The
the big,
ballards in there, they was
yeah,
tied
the
up
big
to.
piling ballards that we was tied up to. I think it was on the inside of those.
You helped to wash the oil away from the California, didn't
Well,
you, with the
yeah,
motor launch?
this Bower, and he was the engineer and I was the coxswain. And we'd come to the California, they were abandoning ship. The guys were jumping off ship and going over to the piling, over to Fort Island. Well, I could see that fire from the Arizona and all the oil, it was about 6 inches thick. The flames were blazing up about 50 foot. And I started making circles. I thought I'd make a backwash. You know how to backwash from a motor launch, so kind of switch it. And I started making circles, just big circles at first, you know, and come up as close to the oil as I could and swishing it away. And as the fire got closer, my circles got smaller. And pretty soon I run out of circles. And I run right up under that fire. The fire was coming up over the motor launch. And that's the first time that day I got scared. I tell you, I was scared as hell. Because I rang the motor launch, you know, the engineer to stop, but he couldn't hear me. And pretty soon he decided maybe he better act on his own, which he did. And backed down, and we were just standing there vibrating up and down. My gosh, he got to stop. You know, it worked out just right. We had swung it out just far enough. The oil went on the port side of the California. All those guys that was in the water, they went ahead and swam ashore. It worked out just right. I don't know how the hell it done it.
I think a lot of men that Potts saved that day by sticking to the motor launch and picking up men, a lot of men that probably thankful today for what you did.
I don't think they.
Actually, I think you could be considered some kind of a hero for your
I don't feel.
work that you did that day.
I don't feel like any kind of a hero. In fact,
You don't have to feel like one to be one.
I
Because
feel
nobody
like,
knows how a hero
I
feels.
feel
The guy
like you
does something
old boys.
that he ain't supposed to do.
I feel like
It
you
doesn't.
boys that were in the bottom was a hero.
That's right.
That's right.
Wes,
That's right.
later
We're
on,
life cowards.
So now
Yeah.
you saw the Arizona get hit, and you watched the Nevada make her sortie out the harbor.
Well,
How did you feel about that?
well, I was in the water when the 5 planes come over to bomb they bombed the West Virginia, they bombed the Arizona. I was in the water still when that happened. I mean,
Watch, you said you didn't know how you did it there as far as pushing the oil aside so those guys can get over to Fort Island. You just knew how to improvise it. You didn't realize that's how you become a boatsman. You can improvise when something goes wrong. Emergency happens, you know how to improvise.
well,
And you do it automatically
perhaps.
because
I don't know. But anyway, I was in the water and I saw those planes go over. I mean, this sounds kind of a fairy story, but I got to thinking, we lost our home, and I mean this is kind of ridiculous, but I shook my fist at him. I says, "And you sons of bitches, we just got that chipped and painted. We'd been working a year on it. The paint was an inch thick on the Oklahoma. I mean, why would a fella think of something like that when all this other was going on?"
Water gutters.
It was kind of like your story down later. Maybe you can tell about the $20 bill.
Oh, yeah.
I was also in the water when Arizona blew
But
up.
you saw the Arizona, you both saw the Arizona.
And the same planes that he's seen, about the same deal with dropping their bombs. But when Nevada took off, I was over on that Magazine Island, and of course the Nevada was painted black or dark navy blue like we were, looking at flag. And she took off down the channel, and we all cheered. Here was a great big battleship, just like it was a sister ship to the Oklahoma, taking off down the channel. We all cheered to see that thing starting out to go to sea. Then later on, I got picked up over the subject.
I was laying off
I
there.
always remember the Arizona gave me a real good feeling. Somebody was doing something,
Nevada.
Yeah.
How many men were in the water?
What?
How many men were in the water whenever you pushed the fire away from it? Any idea?
A hell of a bunch is all I know. Just from 50 to 100, maybe more.
Guaranteed more. Guaranteed more.
But
There was a bunch of them. I don't know.
Now I think the stories were up there and we did our, but here's these three boys,
Mr. Young.
never got out.
Mr. Young.
Yeah.
Present. I'll tell it very quickly. I was mess cooking in number 4, living spaces, and we had just finished breakfast. Heard the first indication we had of anything going wrong was the call to man the anti-aircraft batteries. Man the anti-aircraft batteries. The 4th Division, which was a terror division, was not affected by this call, but it served to get everybody's attention. And why? What? On a Sunday morning? Almost immediately, a call as my fellow mess cook, Mr. Savory's, and I were putting our dishes away, clearing up the mess. A call came almost immediately to man battle stations. Man your battle stations. And of course, that charges went up, and we were so shocked for the moment. We looked around, surprised, and what was happening. The word was then passed over the speaker. This is no, I may be permitted to use his word, not mine. This is no shit, goddammit. Get going. They're real bombs, torpedoes. A torpedo was just, a cruiser, has just been sunk.
Getting all shook up. He said, "No shit, actual air raid, man your battle station." Exactly.
This turned out to be, okay, right. This turned out to be Ensign Rommel, who was not the officer of the deck, but who was passing through the area. We recognized his voice. Everybody took off. And my direct route down to the handling room of the turret, and where I was starting to man my balance station in the upper part of the turret, and I think it was the upper left powder place. It took me through the next compartment, down a ladder, classic, you understand, down a ladder to the shipbuilder, carpenter shop. At that time, before I even got to that ladder, the first torpedo hit. We heard this thud, a noise, kept moving. We were energized, kept moving along, down the ladder, hit again, I believe, the second time. As the lights now well, made it over to the ladder going down to the 3rd deck, through a trunk space, down through, with it into the turret handle. No lights. So we stumbled, barked our shins, jumped down, whatever way we could, and into the turret handle. At that point, the emergency lighting came. so we could see almost as well as with regular light. Up through to the shell deck, up the ladder to the shell deck, and I stopped there. Saw Ensign Rommel, a group of sailors, bosun's mate Red Templeton was there. Ensign Rommel, being the officer in charge of the turret, we turned to him but my battle station was up in the turret. But we stopped. He said, being Ensign Rommel, go back down below, we're being bombed, and you'll be safer down the hailing room. He was the officer in charge. We went below. A good number of us went below, but not everybody. I did not see the incidents. I remember some of it where Ensign Rommel was challenged by the petty officer Templeton, who threatened to knock him on his rear end. Went below, back down at the hailing room. It was confusing. The ship was taken on a list. We could feel it, but we manned our battle stations, and well, which was not actually my battle station, where I was sent. Davenport, Savaries were down there, and many more. I would say about 20, 25 people were in the hailing room at that time, which is a fairly small area with a powder hoist in the middle. Target shells secured to the bulkhead, several of them. Ship was beginning to list. I would spread eagle, keep my balance at that time against the bulkhead. A group of sailors gathered around the hoist, and we were hit again, along about this time, or maybe it was up in the shell deck. Anyway, the third of 5 torpedoes, and perhaps the 4th in this area, because after all, the Oklahoma did begin to capsize with the 5 torpedoes spread down the side within 10 minutes. And in less than 20 minutes, she was on the bottom, upside down. So this happened fast. And spread eagle against the bulkhead, decided then to make another run up the powder hoist to the shell deck, up into the turret. Several people attempted to do this. And the trunk space, I will back up for a moment. When we were first in the hailing room, just a few minutes before what I just the time I just mentioned, the hatch was closed to the trunk, and we heard this pounding on the hatch. Pounding. Let me in. We opened the hatch door, and who was it? But Ensign Spitler, who, like Ensign Rommel, retired from the Navy, captains in the Navy. Ensign Spitler was a fatso type ensign, new to the ship. And I remember him for conducting calisthenics atop the turret, but that's all. And let me in, it's very excited, waving another 45 around. Okay. Let me through here. Didn't stop. Straight through the hailing room. I don't know where his battle station was, but he was not about to stay with us, the sailors, or to in any way try to calm us down or offer advice. Right up through the turret, and he kicked back. I remember one of the sailors, he kicked back with his foot. Sailor tried to follow him. He said, stay here, stay here. Another one said, stay below. And kicked back when one of the sailors had to follow him, kicked him in the head, threw him off balance. Right up through the turret. Didn't stop, but of course I lost sight of him. But as I heard later, he was, I think, the first one out of the turret. Went right straight up through the turret and over the side now. Ensign Spitler. Back to the hailing. The ship was listing now. I could see that we were going to have a big problem with the shells, the target shells.
Those are drill shells.
The drill shells, right? The hatch door leading to the trunk was closed, and some of the sailors were trying to open this hatch. And because of the ship's list, it was very difficult. It was dark down. Cox and Bob Roberts, who had, and I watched him, was the only fellow that I ever knew that could chin himself with one hand. Others were there. Arthur Clodmantle, the bosun's mate, Stanton Jones was somewhere. Several were trying to leave the hamlet from the access hatch, trunk space. Others trying to get to the powder hoist. Spreading on the bulkhead, I could either go here, no there, without slipping down the deck, which was not covered with machine oil, dripping down through the turret, and several people had already slipped trying to maneuver around the handling room and slammed into the wall. Water was now starting to come. We could see there was excitement, but not panic. I was excited what to do next. All of this has happened very fast. People were now starting to climb up the powder hoist ladder to the shell deck at an angle, trying to get out the access hatch from the trunk space. Now, the shell deck, with all the shells, they were 1,400 pounds.
1,500 pounds.
And secured on the bulkhead with light line. Knew they were going to go. Could feel it, could see these shells. The shippers, the target shells, the drill shells, and the handle. General confusion, people trying to do this and that, and I knew that I'd have to move from my location over to the powder hoist. Couldn't walk across the deck. Yelled, "I'm coming over, catch me." Took a big leap. Mike Savary's friend and Cox and Bob Roberts, assisted by Roberts, caught me and I swung in a big arc out over the deck, and just as that drill shell let go and rumbled down the deck, missing, fortunately. Hanging on to the hoist, a few of these people that were at the access door, the trunk access door, managed to get out. I could see them leave, but didn't know what they were going to run into. One gunner's mate, Hamlin, and I think Bergstrom tried to get up through the hand passage, the powder hand pass. Hamlin, as I found out later, was trapped there. Bergstrom backed off and managed to survive by going out through the trunk hatch, up through the trunk. I was on the powder hoist then, and all of a sudden, trying to get up the powder hoist, preceded by several, Mike Savary's, Dickie Davenport, it was too late. The shells let loose. And on the shell deck, and we could hear the commotion, the rolling, and rumbling, and bang, and people yelling up there, and it was all over. Shortly after that, as backed off the ladder, the ship rolled over. But at first, it was hard to appreciate. It's all of a sudden now where we had been standing up at even at an angle, we were now splashing around in the water, and it was dark again. The lights had gone out again. We had been hit by this time for the last time. The fifth torpedo had spread down the side, and water was just gushing right into the handle. We had of course, capsized, splashing around. A sailor by the name of Popeye shot. Call out, can't swim. Like Savary's offered him a leg. I offered him a hand on the hair of his head, what little he had. And he's, kept his head above water. So Mike assisted a couple of people, one Popeye and himself. But anyway, we were splashing around. Somebody came up with a battle lantern, which was working, amazingly enough, splashing around in the handling room, and so there's an open hatch, which was the same hatch that some people had managed to exit by before the ship went all the way over. I mentioned their names, Clodman, Bergstrom, several others. way.
McQuay got out that way.
McQuay, Terry Kaplan first. Anyhow, we entered this trunk space. We said, we've got to get in here because the handling room was flooded, partly. It was only about then we appreciated the fact that we were upside down. We were trying to orient ourselves with the problem. Anyway, we entered this trunk space where the ladder was available to hang on to. It was not full of water. There were a couple of platforms that we could sit on, one anyway, and the rest of the sailors who had made it out of the handle sat on the ladder, sat on the platform. There were 11 of it, 14 altogether at that point, sitting in this small trunk space. What to do? How to get out of there? We're upside down, and nobody had really thought this out. Several of the sailors, Russ Davenport, Mike Zavries, I remember Cox and Bob Roberts, and a sailor by the name of Frank Woods, said, well, if we duck underwater, the part of the trunk space that we were sitting was dry, we were above the water, but there was water in there. And by sticking our head down in the water, we could come up on the other side into the shipbuilder and carpenter shop, which ordinarily was the next stick above, is now the next stick below. And perhaps there'd be a way out there. Well, 4 of the sailors present, not meaning Woods because he was not there in the first place, I don't think, but they met him later on. Fished their way around and returned. Returned to the trunk space.
Still operating.
It's still operating.
Yeah.
Right. Returned to the trunk space and
Relax,
reported that there was no way that they could find to leave the ship from the shipbuilder or the carpenter shop area, and we had to think of something else. Time went by, nobody could really think of anything else. There was a sailor there by the name of William Hensberger, a seaman, and he and I were sitting stretched out on this metal platform slightly above the trunk ladder. And Hensberger and I were watching the water come up and saying, how do we get out of here? There was no way to, that we could think of, and at that point, at least, we were not aware that there was a hatch that we could possibly try to get down from the trunk space to the main deck. Time went by. People were trying to think their way out of the situation. There was a boatswain's mate first class there by the name of Aldridge, who, when anybody spoke or had used the battle light, he had the battle light, he said, stop talking, you're using up the air. Don't use the light, we'll run out of light. He didn't offer much of anything positive, Aldridge. The negatives were important, I suppose, but he didn't have any particular idea of where to go from here. And everybody was trying to think through it their own, it seemed to me. There was no concerted effort to escape except for 2 or 3 people here, 2 or 3 people there. Once I remember Russ Davenport expressed the need to go to the head.
Yeah.
Battle. Mike Zavries.
I take a shit.
Mike Zavries said, well, don't go in here. Don't go in here. And Russ went into the handling room, which was partly flooded, and he went there. He came back. Okay.
Getting ahead of it.
Don't really?
Yeah.
I remember these incidents as we went through them.
Before that happened, we had swam out of there and come back already, and then we broke into the luggage bed.
that was amusing, and it probably was good for us to, probably was good to
Break the tension.
Wait a minute.
break the
You're
tension.
getting all excited.
No.
You're getting ahead of yourself.
Okay.
You got him taking the ship before we even left and to come back. Because we left and then came back, then he took the ship.
I thought that's. I thought
And
that's
Woods was with us when we swam out there.
All the way forward.
Yeah, when we swam, there was me,
Got a point, that's why
Davenport,
the flood
Woods,
is-
and Roberts. You get making this talk too long. We're getting
I'm getting
overlapped.
Story too long?
No,
Anyway.
no, but
You know, while I
we're
was
getting
going on-
overlapped. You know what I mean?
Going on there, and I happened to remember I give Copeland that part of my wood. I'd get it up. I saw Copeland for what, 3 days or here. I didn't recognize him, and I hadn't even thought of the word Copeland for 48 years.
Just now, right? You
Until
come
just,
up with it
just
before.
now. It cracked me up.
We'll introduce him to Susan.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
I seen him up there, and I
That'd be a good thing at the banquet tonight to introduce him, wouldn't it, no?
Yeah, yes. You
That'd be
introduce
damn
him, you tell him,
funny how
this
Still
is the
moving.
guy.